Now we are in Exodus chapter 3. In Exodus chapter 3, we're going to read how Moses spent his life in this foreign land. He has met a father-in-law, he has married, he has got a son, and he was working for his father-in-law. So let's see what is going to happen in this chapter. In verse 1, now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law. That's the name of the father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the far side of the desert and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. That was always the mountain Abraham go to sacrifice. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So you see, the first miracle that happened to him, he was, taking care of his father-in-law flocks on this mountain of Horeb. And that was the place God appeared to him. And it was on this mountain Abraham, Isaac, all the forefathers used to come sacrifice, pray to their God. So that is the presence of God. And it was in this same place God appeared to Moses. Moses saw the fire, the bush on fire, but the bush was not really burning, but there was fire in there. And there the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire within a bush. Moses saw that the bush was on fire, but it did not burn up. So Moses thought, I will go over and see these strange sights, why the bush does not burn up. When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush, Moses, Moses. And Moses said, Here I am. Do not come any closer. God said, Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Then he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. At this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. So Moses really heard God calling him and told him and introduced himself to him. I am the God of your forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Do not come closer. Take off your sandal, for the ground you are standing is a holy ground. So up to date, some people do that when they are in presence of God worshiping, because of this one encounter. Okay, so Moses did as the voice commanded him, and he tried to cover his face because he now knew he was in the presence of God, and he didn't want to see the face of God, because in those times they believe if they see God face to face, they will not survive. So that was the reason he was hiding his face. In verse 6, then he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, Jacob. At this, Moses hid his face. The Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned. So now God is telling Moses that he has heard the cry of the Israelites in Egypt, living in bondage, that they have been enslaved. So he said he is ready to come to their rescue. So I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land into a good and spacious land, and a land flowing with milk and honey, the home of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. And now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I have seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. So now go, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. This is why the songwriter wrote the song. When Moses was in Egypt land, let my people go. Way down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell, O Pharaoh, let my people go. That's a chorus from that verse. So in verse 11, Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? So Moses started asking God, you asking me? Me that has committed a crime. I think all those things have been running in his mind. You are sending me back to Egypt to go stand in front of Pharaoh. Tell him you want Israel to move out when they have wholly and solely depended on Israel, using them as their workforce to build their country. Are they going to listen to me? Is he not going to, attack me? All of those sorts. So he already condemned himself. Who am I to go and stand in front of Pharaoh to bring your people, the Israelites, out of Egypt? And God said, I will be with you, and this will be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain. So you see what God told him? So when you have successfully got those people out of Egypt, when you come to this mountain, you have to worship God. You have to worship me here. Because that is where the forefathers have been worshiping God. That is the presence of God, Mount Horeb. Verse 13, Moses said to God, suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you. And they ask me, what is his name? Then what shall I tell them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. So you see, God said to Moses, I am who I am. So don't worry about all those questions. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. God also said to Moses, say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, the name by which I am to be remembered from generation to generation. So you see, God is telling Moses, go tell them all this, that I am the God of your forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I am, and this is my name forever. So in verse 16, it says, go assemble the elders of Israel and say to them, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob appeared to me and said, I have watched over you and have seen what has been done to you in Egypt. And I have promised to bring you up out of your misery in Egypt into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, a land flowing with milk and honey. The elders of Israel will listen to you. Then you and the elders are to go to the king of Egypt and say to him, the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has met with us. Let us take a 3-day journey into the desert to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God. But I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless a mighty hand compels him. So you see, even when God is giving Moses this command, that when you go, you are not going alone to stand in front of Pharaoh. You're going to meet the elders first, explain to them, introduce me to them, and then you will go with them to stand in front of Pharaoh and tell them all this message I have given you. And when you go tell him, you people need 3 days to go offer sacrifice in the desert to your God. So, but he said, God told Moses again, but Even though when you will go and say all this, I know that Pharaoh, he will not let you go unless a mighty hand compels him. So that means a mighty hand has to force him to release those people, because they were hard-hearted people. So I will stretch out my hand and strike the Egyptians with all the wonders that I will perform among them. After that, he will let you go. So you see, God has already told Moses, when they go, the obstacles they're going to meet ahead of them, that Pharaoh will not allow them. It will not be easy until he uses a mighty hand to compel him to let the people go. He said he will strike them all. In verse 22, every woman is to ask her neighbor and any woman living in her house for articles of silver and gold and for clothing, which you will put on your sons and daughters, and so you will plunder the Egyptians. So you see, God has given them command, and he has even told Moses what they will meet ahead of them. It's not going to be an easy task, but him, the Lord, is with them, and he's going to use his mighty hand to compel that Pharaoh to let the people go. And if they refuse, he is going to use his mighty hand on every Egyptian, and he has to tell every woman to ask their neighbor of their articles of silver and gold and clothing, which they will put on their sons and their daughters, and so they will plunder the Egyptians. So you see, and that was the end of chapter 3. We will see in the next video and in the next chapter. Thank you.